Hey there, Mr. Lee's AP peeps. Adam Norse here for a special narration of this presentation, helping Mr. Brandon Kneebone out. Today we will be covering the topic of the 5 should-have-been presidents in American history. This is an interesting topic as it looks at the individuals who could have possibly and should have become president. It makes one wonder what our country would be like now if one of these men had served as president. Let's get rolling. First, we need to go over some of the criteria that was used in this rigorous search to find the best of the ones who didn't get to serve. To be considered, the individual had to have held some form of office in their life. It could have been as a senator, U.S. representative, both of which Henry Clay was, governor, or even a secretary position. The next piece was that the individual was never president, but that's pretty self-explanatory. Each of the chosen was required to have had some kind of political agenda, an agenda or policy that would have benefited the country socially, economically, and or politically. Lastly, each of them had to have had some success, whether it be the passage of a bill, popularity among citizens, or chosen as a secretary under a president. I felt that we should pay tribute to some of those politicians who, for one reason or another, just didn't make the final cut. These include the first Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton, a mighty Progressive Party member, William Jennings Bryan, the feisty Samuel Adams, the often forgotten about and seldom talked about Leland Stanford, and Robert Kennedy. Oh, and William Henry Harrison. Now, technically, Harrison was president, but he was in office for such a short time, he never really got the chance to do anything. That'll teach people not to give a long speech in bad weather. Poor William Henry Harrison. Now it's time for number 5. Here we go. Number 5 is the man Horace Mann. He lived from 1796 to 1859. He may have not been the most attractive-looking individual, but he had a lot of success. Horace Mann was an educational reformist. When he was appointed to the Secretary of the Board of Education, he put all other professional aspects of his life on hold. That's some serious dedication. He created equality in schools where all children were taught together and none who were allowed to be there were excluded from learning. He ensured that the educators were qualified to teach and that discipline was taught so that children would grow into competent adults. In 1848, Mann was elected to the U.S. Congress to replace John Quincy Adams, and he was a member of the Whig Party. If he had become president, one would imagine that the country would have taken a sharp stance on discipline and a huge focus on education of its citizens. Next up is Barry Goldwater. He lived from 1909 to 1998. Mr. Goldwater was a conservative Republican who ran against Lyndon B. Johnson in 1964 and ultimately lost in a landslide. He was known for a strong stance against communism, though he had stated that he did not approve of McCarthyism and the extremist hunt for communists within American borders. He served as a United States Senator for Arizona for 24 years. He was known for his desire for states' rights, similar to the style of Thomas Jefferson. He felt that the federal government should not interfere so much in a state business. While he was thought of to be too extreme, his voting record actually shows that he was in sync with much of the other Republican politicians of his time. Goldwater would have made a good president, especially at the time as Johnson was still continuing the idea of more government programs and welfare. If Goldwater had served, the most likely result would have been less of the New Deal programs and possibly a more aggressive tactic against communism. Number 3 is the mighty John Marshall. He was alive between the years 1755 to 1835. He was a member of the Federalist Party. He served as the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court as appointed by President Adams in his Midnight Judges scheme. As the Chief Justice, he was known for his rulings that almost always favored the federal government and believed that a more powerful government was necessary. Some important cases that he ruled over included Marbury versus Madison, which ended up resulting in the importance of allowance of strict judicial review. Another large case was McCulloch versus Maryland. This ruling allowed for the creation of the Second Bank of the United States and denied the authority to states who wished to tax federal institutions. John Marshall never ran for president, but if he had, it would be assumed that he would have ran on the policy of growing the government and making sure the majority of the power rested within it. All right, the runner-up is the fabulous Adlai Stevens II. He ran for president twice, both times against Dwight D. Eisenhower. He was a member of the Democratic Party, and Stevenson was known for his love of politics. He served as the 31st governor of Illinois, where he focused on internal improvements and creating ways to reduce unemployment within his state. He was a great public speaker, noted for his energy and charisma. Many historians have stated that he is to blame for many young voters becoming more interested and involved with politics at a time when protests and revolutions were just starting to show up. He was also strongly against Joseph McCarthy and his extreme anti-communist values. Stevenson was the nice guy who finished last. Now for my boy, Henry Clay. He ran for president 3 times unsuccessfully, but you've got to admire that never give up attitude. Henry Clay was known for his mindset in politics that were probably way ahead of his time. He played a direct role in the Compromise of 1850, the issue of slavery in the area that was acquired in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. The main results of the compromise were that California was admitted as a free state, Utah and New Mexico were to be decided by popular sovereignty, and the passage of a more stringent fugitive slave law. Clay served as a U.S. representative, Speaker of the House, youngest speaker ever, and he was elected in his first term in the House of Representatives, and also Secretary of State under John Quincy Adams. Mr. Henry Clay would have been a fantastic president, no doubt about it, as he was great at compromise and looking out for both sides' best interest and thinking both logically and abstractly to solve problems. That is why Henry Clay is the #1 should have been president in American history. Oh, look, there's my boy again. Thank you to all the viewers, and I hope you were enlightened by the should have been individuals. Who knows how history would have turned out if they had served. Adam Norris, signing out. Have a good day, guys.